Hey guys, go talk about BDRX, very strong cycle manip, very standard low flow manip type price action. Did not take any trades pre-market. Here are my trades. You'll see that I actually tried longing out of the downhalt and I took a cut and then I re-longed it and caught the squeeze, sold way too much way too early. For some reason I didn't see a lot of bids following this up and I thought they might pull it, so I was selling into some stalling. I saw in the 630s, and then an ask at 7. I started selling pretty much everything I had, and missed out on the uphalt and the 8.8 squeeze. Sadly, a little bit on wrong read on when to sell, but the read off the book map on the manip was good. And then I actually missed the A plus short, which was this little 1 minute retail flag push in the eights right here on this wick. But I luckily some big ass came in. I was able to short in the 740s and high 730s. And these asks never got tested, and then it went down. And I covered. I re-added a little bit here on a little retail chase. Big candle retail chase, and then I covered towards the end of the day. So we'll go over why the trade. So go to the book. So in the pre-market, you actually see in the pre-market that we have these these are like almost like 8 to 10% red candles followed by like 10% green candles. So we see these like red candle, green candle, red candle, green candle, and you might be wondering like how do you trade something that's moving so erratically? And how can you size in, or how can you avoid shorting too early when you get price action like this, right? It can be very easy to chase. You think it's a quick pre-market pop, you just start chasing this candle right away. You're short in the 430s, and then it's in the 480s in 2 minutes, right? How do you avoid something like that happening, right? So, in my Discord information down below, I was like, I don't have a read on this at all. I was like telling people in the pre-market, I was like, I saw this pop. BDRX is a form of manipulated stock. It's a tiny float, and we see right here that on the book, there's no orders. Like really, if you go right here, like between 413, which is where the price is, all the way to real above 5. There's no orders on the book. It's all like 100 shares, 200 shares, 100 shares, and then they're throwing up a couple bids, which just absorb anybody selling too early. They just soak at the bids, and then when it rotates, the book is so thin that it just goes from 404 to 456 in about 15 seconds, right? So, when I'm trading pre-market, and you'll see if you watch my THAR video today, you'll see that I'm really waiting for offers to come on the book at moments on the chart where I would expect resistance to be, whether it's a long trap, whether it's a stock that squeezed shorts and it's pushing new high, pushing new high, pushing new high, but it's suddenly offers on the book start showing up and bids start getting pulled, and in my THR chart we'll kind of go over that. But I see all this algo come in and throwing up all these spoof bids down here, and they're doing it at like every little level, and I'm just like I have no read on this. Like I just see a thin book. There's really no orders up here. I'm seeing a bunch of algo spoofing that's like grinding the stock higher, and I'm just seeing. And I'm always like, when look at the book map, I'm always comparing it to the chart, like the 1 minute chart. I'm like, does any of this fit a setup or a pattern or some type of manipulation candle that makes me think it's a good short? And I really just don't see anything. So we start getting some offers up here, but like I just don't have a read on this. They're not too significant. They're kind of getting pushed, moved down here. It's the same stuff that's happening down here. It's just like they're getting moved around, and I'm just seeing this grind. I'm like, you know what? I'm just like, usually when I don't have a read on something, especially when it's not fitting any type of pattern here, like it's just grinding. It's 1 minute 9. The book's really thin. I usually just wait for market open because I just don't have a read on this. At market open, they do the classic thing where retail chases the 930 candle and they shake them out. So I wasn't short any of this price action. And this is very classic manip, especially in stronger markets. Pull it under VWAP, bunch of empty space to the upside. I did not catch this long. I actually should have been prepared to catch this long. For some reason I was looking at THAR at market open, even though it wasn't really very impressive. And yes, here you see them pulling out under VWAP. There's a bunch of random bids, nothing like too huge until this moment. We start getting some bigger bids show up under here. They initiate it back above VWAP, and it squeezes into an up-haul. I didn't really have a read. I was definitely not going to short this, especially when I see the bids follow it up. And it got up-halted. And something that really interesting. So if you watch my video on INVO, INVO had the same I'll just open up INVO. INVO had the same pattern on the 10th. So if you go back and look at my video on November 10th, we had another, very much like BDRX, under VWAP, soaks under VWAP, and does a high day up-halty squeeze, right? And then this candle like instantly downhalts. So we get like up-halt, it unhalts, and instantly downhalts. And a lot of shorts will chase downhalts, right? A lot of shorts will see, a downhold at the top on a very overextended stock, and these stocks could be up 100%, 200%, 400%, 800%. Doesn't matter what the percent is. It just has to be up a lot, and shorts have to be really feeling a lot of FOMO, because a lot of times these downhalts are so quick, you have zero time to get in. So, and the idea is very simple. It unhalts out of the downhalt. It initially shows weakness, and then it rotates, and I longed this at 1.6 here, and it rotates through all this empty space, and shorts get squeezed. So if we go back to BDRX, this downhalt was really interesting here, because this downhalt happened on almost no volume. And if we look at the book, you can actually see, this is the downhalt. This downhalt happened in about, about 1.5 seconds. It took 1.5 seconds to hit the downhalt level, which means like very little shorts are actually positioned in the stock. Actually, most of the volume of the stock comes from buying on the downhalt. That doesn't, that the downhalt doesn't break, and then it's permanently downhalted. So I know that, a lot of shorts are going to see this, 20% red candle out of a downhault that instantly happened, and they're going to want to short out of the downhault, right? But as you've been watching my videos, this creates a bunch of empty space. If you look between like the unhalt level, in the high fives and 7.6, there's nothing, there's no orders that were essentially traded here. And if we look at the book, out of the unhalt, if we look on the book, here's like here's some bids. So I actually took a loss because I was longing into these bids here, but it turns out they ate through a decent amount of them, and I took a loss near the bottom. But if you see the book, there's very low orders from $6, low sixes all the way to 8 really, which is past high day. Order book's very empty, right? And you can see them throwing bids down here, right? Now these sometimes you never quite know what bids are going to hold. Sometimes they eat through some of them, and the ones lower keep holding. You never really know. But what I longed was this. So if we see this thick stack right here, this was a guy coming in with 15,000, 6,000, 2,000. So you have like 30, 40,000 shares. And this is on DXF feed, so this is actually missing the ARC orders, so there's actually even more orders than this. I saw a bunch of shares in the 570s, and I just started longing right here. Like as soon as I saw this, started longing right in the 580s. We broke 6. I saw the stall here. This is where I sold a little bit. It was kind of a bad, because the problem is I didn't see any bids follow this up, so I was a little afraid. But it turns out they just market ordered it straight to 7. And then I thought, oh man, they're market ordering straight to 7. They took out the 7 offers, but then it started stalling with no bids, and I was a little afraid that they would dump it. And I sold my long, but I didn't hit flip short. I just sold the long, and then we get an actual up halt. So I kind of missed a whole nother, essentially missed a whole nother dollar, almost $2, which is a little sad. But this was much more interesting. So It unhalts, squeezes high day, pulls back, fake downhalts, and then starts squeezing again, right? So this had potential to just keep going, but I always say when you get these crazy manipulated, moves, a lot of times these have to continue. If they start to stall and do kind of a lower volume pullback, it invites and it creates a flat top. So you see a flat top here. So there's like a little flat top. There's some higher lows. It invites retail to chase the stock, and when it breaks over this level, which is right at 8, there's 790 and there's 8. It actually becomes a very interesting short, but sadly I wasn't. And you actually see that they started stacking bid. Very similar trick to the long that made me a lot of money. They started stacking bids, but in this case, when they initiated it, they broke 8, and when they broke 8, they started pulling the bids, right? And if we zoom way in, you can see there's actually, not only is there bids getting pulled, but there's no bids following this up. So uh, what happens here is they fake out logs thinking, this manipulated move is going to keep squeezing high day. It breaks a key level, a bunch of volume comes in, they pull the bids, and then kind of the rest is history. And I'm like, man, that was such a good short. Shorting in the high 8s or or low 8s or high 7s. I'm like, man, I was like, I think that's super. Like, this is, to me, this, after squeezing shorts, here and here, these types of moves are the types of moves that often determine tops, right? Often, sometimes you get crazy strong stocks like UCAR and plays like that, where that just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. But a lot of times it's price action like this that determines. It's like the long trap at the top before the fade, right? That's how it commonly works. So I was like really angry. I was like, man, I missed that play. But we always learn that you never want to chase. If you don't have a good average up here, you don't want to chase down here because there's still, like, even if backside is in, which in this case, it obviously worked out and it went down, that anytime there's a deep pullback like this, it always creates empty space on the book. And a lot of times you'll see similar tricks that we saw earlier where you'll see bids lower, but now the stock's getting extended, it's running out of liquidity. What's more likely to happen is it'll throw up some bids to fill the empty space, because low floats very rarely just go down, 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 down. Like, they don't really fail. Like, they do like manipulated stuff, and then go down, right? So I'm like, all right, maybe I'll get a secondary signal. Maybe it fills this empty space, and um, some backside ass starts showing up that I can short into and risk. So as you see, we zoom out. Here's the dump. Here's the manipulated move. We could see the ask they put up here that they end up pushing to, right? So a lot of times they'll do that. They're like, all right, we'll squeeze the backside. We'll throw up some key levels, and these become the levels, like the most important backside levels. So if I was already short over here, which I wasn't, the levels I actually care about are these levels. These are the levels I actually care about, right? Because it's very easy for a stock to move through an empty book, but it's what happens at the bigger levels that determines how strong a stock actually is or how weak it is, right? So I see this push, but I see a bunch of bids. So I'm like, all right, this doesn't look like a very good signal for me to get into. I guess you could have started shorting in the 750s and 60s and 70s and risking these guys. But I was like, I don't really like these bids showing up. And then, it started like, so I didn't take any position here, and then it took out the bids, and you don't want to chase into bids getting taken out for the most part. You want good averages on long traps near the top, and you want to be where these longer term guys, because there'll be a lot of times there's ask up higher that just stay there. Like these 8 guys never left, right? So you want, you don't want to be chasing bids getting broken down here. You want to be somewhere higher. So I'm like, all right. I see these bids get taken out, and I see the rotation, and then I see that this rotation had a bidder here who pulled, so now there's very little bids on the bottom of the book. And then I was like, well, there's no real ask until up to 8. I don't want to, I still don't want to short have it that big in case it pushes towards 8, and then maybe I can make a better read, or maybe it's strong. You never know. But then it pulls back, and then I start seeing stacks, and this bidder disappearing. And I was like, I'm very bearish this signal. So to me, this is a good enough backside signal where at least I have some established offers that I can risk, and I just shorted. If you see my chart, I shorted here based on those offers showing up. I missed a better short up there. And then I was ultimately risking, you know, these guys in the 760s and 770s and all the way up to 8, right? And then pretty much the bids never really zoom out. The bids kind of were all down here. Some new ass started showing up. And also, this if you missed a trade, this was actually a decent backside signal. I told my Discord, I was like, hey, when it was down here, I was like, the asks are at 720 and 735, right? So this is a good lesson where a stock on the backside gets market ordered up. That's what all these green bubbles are. No bids follow it up, but it keeps pushing, and it breaks through this big 720 guy. Breaks through him, whenever a big ask gets broken that's been holding the stock down, what often matters is the reaction above it. It's not just that ask got filled, it's what is the buying pressure looking like above that big ask that just got filled, and what's the bid support, right? So this actually was really interesting that it broke this 720. People tried pushing it, but it barely moved, and then they restacked it 20,000 shares here, and that 20,000 shares ends up not getting broken the rest of the day, and it actually ends up just fading. So that's a pretty interesting backside signal. The only other trade I took was this one here. This is a classic like retail chase. You get like your crazy, backside candle. You get your higher low, lower high pullback, and I shorted into. Let's see if I can find that. When was that? That was at 1254. Okay, that was here. And this was a similar idea. Like, they had a bidder here. They push it. The bidder pulls, so now there's no bids. And then I saw these asks, and I like to wait to see if these asks get tested a lot. You could have went in here. Honestly, this wasn't bad, but I think I just wasn't paying that close attention until this next push. And then I actually added, I think in the high 640s or something like that over here. And then, yeah, this is classic. They fill the ass, there's no bids, and then they pull it. So that's pretty simply classic. And then here's more manipulated stuff. Here's this push to 660. They throw some ass. This ass never gets tested, and then faded rest of the day. So, yeah, pretty interesting trade. Some key lessons. When you ever get these super quick downhalts where no shorts essentially got in, sorry here. Where no shorts essentially got in to this downhaul because of the volume and how quick it was, you'll know that they'll be chasing out of the downhaul, and on a manipulated stock, lots of empty space and upside, some bidders, especially here when the big bidder came in, manipulates the stock straight up, and then little here, the little retail flag above 8, I missed it, but some new asks started showing up, and I hit that in the mid-low 7s, and yeah, faded straight down. So nice trade, nice reads, didn't get caught. Took a small loss on the first long, but made it all back on the next long, and it was a good trade. So hope that was informative, and I'll make a quick video on THAR. See ya.